Ah.
Welcome to Cave Cooking 2, where we're going to teach you how to use solar cookers and the Dutch oven. Ron and I think that the Dutch oven is such an important survival tool that we've devoted almost the entire video to it. I'd like to add that Ron and I do only use American-made Dutch ovens. The quality of the American-made Dutch ovens in comparison with the foreign Dutch ovens is a lot better. The foreign Dutch ovens happen to be a lot less expensive. They're less than half the price of one made in the USA. But I think that the quality that you'll get with the more expensive USA-made one is going to be well worth it for you and your family. I'm going to be showing you a few recipes in this video, and I wanted to point out that not all the recipes that I'm going to be showing are meant to be gourmet type recipes. I'm especially talking about the recipes that I'm going to show you with the solar cookers. I just used a very simple recipe that Ron and I use when we're out on our trips that's got enough calories in it to get us through. I just basically wanted to show you that the solar cookers do work. We're also going to be cooking some meat that's a little unusual. Remember in Ron's Volume 5, Traps and Trapping, that little saying that he says, if you kill it, you got to eat it? Well, we're going to have to eat whatever we kill, and you'll see later in the video what I'm talking about. So you can sit back and you can enjoy the video. There are many ways to use the sun to cook, anywhere from dropping an egg onto a hot rock to making a device. Now there are three main devices used for solar cooking. There's the box cooker, the panel cooker, and the parabolic cooker. What I'm going to show you today is a panel cooker that we've been using for years. Let me show you what you need to make this. You need a cardboard box, some tape, a knife, some spray adhesive, and some foil. Now I'll show you how to make it. We're going to cut the box up so it looks like a T, just like this drawing, and it's going to have 5 panels. The first thing we're going to do is remove all the flaps from the top of the box. Now we're using this size box. The larger the box you use, the more food you can cook and the more efficient it is. I'm showing this particular box because it's easy to handle. Now that all the panels are removed, we need to make 2 more cuts here and here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now that I've made those 2 cuts, I need to make our 2 final cuts, and those would be here and here. Now all the cuts are made. Now there's a few more things we need to do before we start putting our foil onto the box. If you'll see right here, I cut through the side of the box and it left these 2 inner flaps. These are very important. We're going to tape these on as a reinforcement to the bottom, and it also is an insulating factor that will help the cooking process. The reason that I'm insulating this particular flap is because this is where the food is going to sit and cook inside the cooker. That's why we want this to be extra thick. When you apply your foil, keep into consideration that your oven is going to fold up into a small packet like this. Remember that foil has two different sides to it. It's got a shiny side and a dull side. We want to make sure when we put the foil onto the box that the shiny side is going to be facing out. It's also a good idea, and I recommend using very heavy-duty foil. It doesn't tear and it stands up to many uses if you use your solar oven quite often. While I'm going to be using the spray adhesive to apply the foil to the box, any other type of adhesive would work fine, from rubber cement to staples. I like to spray both sides of the foil and the box to get the proper adhesion. That's what I'm going to do. And what works well is if you let it sit in the air for a minute to get a little tacky, and then apply it. If you apply it right away, sometimes it doesn't stick all that well. Now, what I want you to remember when you apply this particular panel, this particular foil to this panel, is that the box is going to be folded up in this manner. So we want to make sure the box is in that position when we fold the foil over. Now on the back side of it, you're just going to make two small cuts right here, just to make it easier to fold the foil over. There's the second one. There we go. And we'll use the adhesive spray again. Remember, these are going to be folded in, so we want to make sure that the foil's on there properly. Okay. Making our small cuts here. Here. Now this is almost complete. Now what you can do, just to make sure that these edges here don't come up in your many uses, we'll take some tape and just put tape wherever you think that it might be a weak spot in the foil. Remember, this is on the back side of the solar panel. Here's your finished solar panel. I want you to see how easy it is to fold up and carry. That's why we use it so often in the mountains. It fits right inside your backpack. It's light, easy to make, and it's very effective. Now that your solar cooker's finished, there's a couple of things I want to discuss with you, and those are heat loss mechanisms. Now, Ron's already covered those in his Volume 2 shelter selection, but there's a couple of them that are very important when you're cooking with a solar cooker like this. One of them in particular is heat loss through conduction, and that's heat loss from the warmer body to the colder body. We've already taken care of that by putting an extra layer of cardboard on the bottom piece here that we are going to be cooking on. Now, the second heat loss mechanism that we are concerned with is heat loss through convection, which is the passage of air that takes heat away from something, like if you're having a cup of soup and you blow on it to make it cooler. We don't want that to happen, especially since we use these outside a lot. So what you're going to want is something that is clear that you can place over your food that you're cooking, something to keep the air out and to keep the warm air in and let it cook good in there. If you don't have something like this, let's move this over here. They make this handy dandy oven bags. These are oven bags, and they are not regular sandwich bags. These are rated for oven temperatures. So please don't use regular sandwich baggies. I have one here that's open. Now what you would do in the case that you didn't have one of these clear dishes, you would take whatever you are cooking, place it inside the baggie, leave some air in it, and cook it just like this. One other thing that I would like to show to you that's equally important, I want you to make sure that the pan that you use to cook your food in is black. If it's not black, you can blacken it in a fire, or you can spray paint it. If you do choose to spray paint it, please make sure that the back of the can says that it is safe when it is dry. Some of the reasons why I prefer using these oven bags are because you can use them over and over again as long as they're not torn. Another thing that's good about them is that they're compact and they're easy to pack in and they're inexpensive. In order to demonstrate the solar panel cooker, I want to make a simple dish for you, and it's just going to be ramen, some flavoring, egg, and some water. First I break up the ramen and add the flavor packet. This is about 450 calories. I'm going to put some dried onion and some parsley in there for flavoring. Then I add about 2 cups of water. Then I add either a fresh egg or egg powder, depending upon what I have on hand. Now I'm going to place it into the bag, our oven bag, leave a little bit of air in there, and I'm going to use one of the ties that's provided with the oven bag. It's kind of neat. It's easy to get on and off, and it tightens up really easily. Now I'm going to put this in my solar cooker. Now that we have our solar oven set up, there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about. Right now it's mid-November, it's about 40 degrees outside, and we are in central Idaho. Obviously the best time to cook with one of these cookers is in the midsummer when the sun is straight up above and the temperatures are warmer. In the summer, your oven will reach around 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Today, though, with the conditions that we have now, we'll be lucky if it gets up to 200 degrees. Now let's start it up. Because the angle of the sun is so low this time of year, we had to place our solar oven on a slope. To compensate for that slope, we had to make this little device. This is made out of chicken wire. This works in 2 ways. It levels the surface that we're going to be cooking on, and it also lessens the heat loss through conduction. First, we're going to place the leveler into the bottom of the cooking surface, and then we're going to place our pan right on top of here. Now this bag is quite tall, and what you might want to do is either cut it off or move it to the side here so it doesn't interfere with any of the reflection that might heat the pan. Now that you've got your food in place, you need to move your wings around so you have the greatest concentration of sunlight and heat on your food. Once you've found the proper location of your wings, you can use sticks or stones like I have to keep them in place. Please keep in mind that throughout the day the sun will be moving, so you'll have to watch your cooker and move it possibly every hour or 2. I think we're about ready to leave this alone and let it cook. There's one thing I wanted to point out to you. If you look down here, this pot has only been in here for approximately 5 minutes. You can see that it's already warmed up enough to make condensation on the inside of the bag. That's a really good sign. While our food is cooking, I wanted to offer you a word of warning. Please do not look directly into the oven when you are setting it up. It could give you eye damage. Please be careful. This dish is finally finished. It took about 2 hours to cook. In the summertime it would have taken about 15 to 20 minutes, but today we had overcast skies which lessened the temperature inside the oven. Now, this pot is hot to the touch. I can't keep my hand there, but I do want to show you how hot it is. Poke a little hole in here. I'm going to punch this thermometer in here, let it sit for a minute to demonstrate how hot it gets in there. I think you'll be amazed. You can see that the temperature is just below 100 degrees Celsius, which is the boiling point of water. But the final test is not a thermometer. It's what's inside. So I think we're going to find out what's inside here. I'm hungry. I had to wait too long for this meal. Ooh, that looks good. You can see that egg cooked almost all the way through, but I kind of like it runny in the middle. Well, no, it's not runny. Look at that. Cooked all the way through. That's great. Tastes pretty good. Did a good job. It's worth the wait. One of the other type of solar cookers that I mentioned was the parabolic cooker. The parabolic cooker is the most efficient of the solar cookers. However, it's the most difficult to make. Here's an example of a parabolic cooker. This is going to be my cooker. This is a reflector that I've simply taken from the inside of a flashlight. And this is a dried weed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to point this reflector at the sun and place the weed inside the back of the reflector. You're going to see how fast it works. Just align this up with the sun. Stick the weed in the back. And if we get it just right, it'll start to smoke pretty quickly. You see how quick that happens? This just shows how efficient these parabolic cookers are. This satellite dish here is a perfect example of a ready-made parabolic cooker. The angle's already set up to focus all of its reflection and energy to the end of this post. Now all you need to do is cover the inside of this with the shiny foil, and if you're going to be using this as a cooker, please remember to remove your electronics or you will fry them too. Ron decided to find out last summer if this worked very well, and he covered the whole inside with foil, and we removed the electronics and put a platform on the end of this pole to put our food on. One problem is that when he went to go put the food in, he didn't have any covering over his hand and he burnt it pretty badly. The energy that comes out of one of these things is so much stronger than that little one that I just showed you. You just really have to be careful with these or it will burn you. Another solar cooker that I mentioned before was the box solar cooker. And this is what we make our box solar cooker out of. This is just a plain file box. It's really easy to make. It only takes about 10-15 minutes. What we do is we just take a regular old file box and we cut it off about halfway. I use this line here because there's one on every single side. I just cut that all the way around. I discard the top portion. And then just like the other one, I lined the inside, just like the panel one that I showed you, I lined the inside with the shiny side of the foil, and then I spray paint the outside of it black. Now for the top, we just use this regular top. We put this back on it, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut out 3 sides to make a panel, a flap that folds open. And let me show you what our box cooker looks like. This is the half of the cooker that I've cut off. I've lined it with foil and I've painted it black, just as I told you. And let me show you what the top looks like. This top was cut out on 3 edges. You open it up here, cover this with foil, and this is the part that I wanted to talk with you about. This is made out of these handy dandy oven bags. I use the oven bag as the see-through part that you see here. The actual best thing that you can use here in one of these solar cookers is glass, but I didn't have glass, so I used the oven bags. Now I don't want you to use saran wrap or anything like that because they won't withstand the heat like this oven bag will, but it just has to be something that you can see through and that will withstand the heat, and that's why I chose the oven bag. And what you do is you put your food in here, preferably in a black pail, just like I did before, and it's best to raise it up so the heat gets all the way around it. You put no need to put it in an oven bag because it's already going to be covered with this. And you put it in a good place and you move this around just as we did with the panel cooker to get the most reflection inside onto your food. And we made this little handle here, and you just put this wherever you think it's best and that will cook the best with the sun at the angle that you want. And that's the box cooker. It only takes about 10-15 minutes to make. It's easy to make and I like to cook with it. Now you've seen the 3 ways of cooking with the sun. As far as efficiency goes, the parabolic cooker is by far the most efficient. It produces the highest temperatures. But it's also the most difficult to make, and it's difficult to keep pointed at the source of illumination, which is the sun. It's also not very portable. The second most efficient cooker is the panel cooker, and that happens to be my favorite. It's efficient, it's easy to travel with, and it's easy to make. These box cookers here are the least efficient of all 3 of the types that I've shown you. They work well in the summer, they're easy to make, but they're bulky and not very portable. I guess that's it for the basics of solar cooking. I hope you've enjoyed it. This next segment I'm going to be talking with you about is about one of my favorite cooking tools, and that is the hot pot or Dutch oven. I use those words interchangeably, so you'll hear me talking Dutch oven, you'll hear me talking hot pot. So whichever one, you know what it is. I suggest that after you watch this Cave Cooking 2 that you go out and you purchase yourself one of these. They are very fun to work with, and they are just so versatile you won't even believe it. The first thing I'd like to discuss is the different styles of Dutch ovens that you can have, and I have an assortment of them here on my table, and I'd like to go over them with you. We have 2 here. These are my very favorite. These have been in Ron's family for a long time. This one's been in his family since the 1800s, and this one's a little newer. It's been in their family since about the 1930s, so they've had a lot of use, and you can see how oily that is inside. We've kept that seasoned up pretty good when we do cook with these a lot. This first one here is called a drip drop roaster, and you'll see that it's flat on the bottom. This particular roaster is good for actually cooking roasts, and it's good primarily for bottom heat only or putting it actually in the oven. And the reason they call it a drip drop roaster is because it actually is a self-basting roaster. And you see these designs on the top here. These weren't put in here just to be pretty. These actually serve a purpose. And when you're cooking your roast, the juices will form on top of this top here and will drip down and baste your whatever you're cooking, a roast or stew or whatever. The other type of hot pot is this hot pot here. You know, it's got a flat top, and the bottom here has pegs on it, and this one is actually made for placing in the fire, and the peg legs are so that when you do place it in the fire and in the coals, there's still going to be some air movement underneath here to keep the coals going, and that's really important. That's something that this particular flat one doesn't have. Now you also notice that the top of this is indented a little bit, and it's flat. This is so you can put a heat source up here, whether it be coals, charcoal, or just burning wood. You can have sources of heat from the bottom and the top. This is a very versatile thing. I like to cook stews and fry in this and just cook just about anything in it. Now you'll see that this pot has a number on the outside of it, and that is 12. And this one happens to be a 9, this is a 12, and this is a 14. They're all different. And what that refers to is the diameter of the pot. There's another criteria though in buying one of these. You can get them shallow, which this one happens to be, or you can get them deep, which this 9-inch pan here is deep. It just means it's a little deeper than the shallows, and you can put a little bit more stuff in them. Now, I want to talk about the pricing on these things. These things new are pretty expensive. I just bought this 14. This is brand new. I'm going to show you how to season this in just a minute. It has never been used. I just bought this 14 for about $79. That was brand new. That was never used before. This 12 here, I bought this at a second-hand shop, and I bought this for about $8. And you'll see a lot of these you'll see it's kind of funky inside. Whoever had it before has some rancid oil in it. It smells good. But you'll see a lot of these in second-hand stores because people get them and they don't know how to use them and they don't know how to take care of them. Another thing you need to be careful when you buy them used is you need to make sure that they're not too rusty and they're not cracked. Now I want to show you this one here. Now we found this up in the mountains when we were filming Cave Cooking 1, and in that junk pile that you saw in there. And this thing's in pretty bad shape. This top here, it's been left out, obviously. It's been left out in the environment for way too long without any seasoning. You'll see it's cracked on the bottom here. And this can get cracked if you take a hot pot and you put it in the water and you cool it too quickly. It's very bad for the pot. But this also you can see is in very bad shape. If it wasn't cracked, I would just take some steel wool and clean it out on the inside, get that rust off of there, and then re-season it, it would probably be okay. Now, just because the bottom's cracked doesn't mean that I can't still use this top. This is a drip drop roaster top. I can still cook in this. I can turn it upside down and use it as a fryer. And I think I will show you that a little bit later in the video. All the hot pots that I've showed you today have been cast iron. I do want to let you know that there are aluminum ones available. And the advantages of having an aluminum one are that they're about a third of the weight of any cast iron that you're going to have. Now, one thing that I don't like about the aluminum is they do not brown like the cast irons do. And on a cold day, if it's windy outside, you really have to keep that heat source going. It might take a little longer to cook than on these cast iron ovens. This here is called a trivet, and this is one of the accessories that you would use if you were to put a flat bottomed pan such as this one into a fire. Just put it in the fire, place this on top of it, and there's still enough air under here for the fire to be able to get oxygen. Another tool I have here is a lid lifter, and works like this. This is going to be very hot, so you are going to need something to lift your lid with, and this is very handy. Another thing we have to lift lids are these tongs, and these tongs you can use them as clippers right here, or they've also have this handy little hook right here, and you can just pick this up and move it this way. Another use for the trivet is to hold the top of your pan so it won't get dirty if you don't have another place to put it. You can check your food, pick your pan top back up, place it back on there. You don't have to touch it with your hands. You don't have to burn yourself. Another thing that's good to have are a good pair of gloves. Anytime you're going to be working with hot pots or anything that has any kind of heat in it, it's really good to have these. These are just a few of the items that you're going to want to have when you're using your Dutch oven. What is seasoning? Well, seasoning is a process that you're going to put your pot through. It's kind of like a Pioneer Teflon. It's going to stop food from sticking to your pot, and it's also going to seal your pot and stop it from rusting. Here's the 14 pot that I just bought, and I'm going to have to season it before we can use it. Let me show you how to do that. First, what you're going to do is you're going to wash it with warm and soapy water. When these cast iron pots come back from the factory, they do spray them with a clear sealant that you're going to want to remove before you start the seasoning process. Now wipe it dry. If your new pot happens to have a little bit of rust in it, don't worry about that. Just take some steel wool, scrape it out until the rust is gone, and then you can get ready for the seasoning process. To season the pot, I'm going to just use a little bit of olive oil, not too much. And what you're going to do is you're going to take that olive oil, take a paper napkin or a towel like I have, and just make sure that there's a thin coating, not a real thick coating, a thin coating of this oil all inside of the pan and outside on every part of the pan. Some people swear by, there are several different ways to do this. Some people swear by using vegetable oil to season their pots. Some people swear by animal fat. Some people don't even put oil all the way on the inside and the outside of their pan. They just like to put a bunch of greasy bacon in and call that seasoned. I don't like doing that. I like making sure that every part of my pot has been covered with oil, because I don't want any of it to rust, and I want it to last a very long time. It's as important to season your lid. Be sure to get every crevice. Every part on this pan has the potential of rusting. Now that the pot has been thoroughly oiled, it's time for us to place this on top of a heat source. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking this pot and putting it on top of an open flame. There are several different ways you can do this. You can do this with briquettes, with hot briquettes. You can do this inside your house. One of the things about doing it inside your house is that it's going to make your house smoky, because what you have to do is you have to put your pan in, oiled and all, into a 350 to 400 degree temperature oven, and you have to keep it in there until it stops smoking. So your house is going to get very smoky, and I don't recommend doing that, especially if it's the first time you've seasoned a hot pot like this. I do recommend either doing it on top of your propane stove, on a fire, or with the charcoal briquettes. Now let's put this on the fire. This pot's been on the flame for about 10 minutes, and let me open this up and show you how it's smoking. This is this is why you do not want to do this inside your house. Excuse me. The rule of thumb for seasoning one of these is to keep it on the flame or in the heat source until it stops smoking. So we're just going to have to wait it out until it's done smoking. Okay, I think this pot's just about done. I'm going to turn it off now. It's been in here in the flame for, there we go, about an hour. And it's just about stopped smoking. I'm going to pick it up. It's hot and it's heavy. Move it over to the trivet. And then what we're going to do is we're going to let this cool off naturally. When it's cooled off enough, we're going to take a little bit more olive oil, spread it on the inside and the outside just as we did before. And then your seasoning is finished and you're ready to cook with it. What I'm going to show you now is an easy way to make an effective charcoal briquette starter. We're going to be using a piece of chicken wire, an old plant pot, a coffee can, and a piece of 17-gauge fence wire. The first thing you have to do is find a pot or something that will fit easily inside the coffee can. The second thing you're going to do is cut your chicken wire to fit around the pot or the form that you're going to find. This one's roughly 1 foot by 1 foot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my gloves on, because this chicken wire does hurt, and just smash this around here. What you're doing is making a form, a basket that's going to fit inside the Folgers can. The reason we want it to fit inside the can and make it fit inside the can easily is because we want to have a place to store it after we're done using it. The next thing we need to do is we need to make a basket handle, and this will make it easy for us to transport the hot coals in the basket. And all you'll do, she'll put it in, and there's your basket. These handles do not need to be permanently attached because you want the handle to be cold when you lift your basket with the hot briquettes in it. The next step is to prepare the furnace. Now we're going to take the open end side of the coffee can and we're going to place a series of holes with a church key or some other object all the way around the open end side of the can. I've made a series of holes now, and now we have some sharp edges that we need to get rid of. I'm going to use my Gerber multi-tool, and I'm going to flatten all these around. We're going to use this can several more times, and we don't want anybody to get hurt. Alright, now they're all safely flattened, and it's time to go on to our next step. The next thing we need to do is we need to open up this center section. What we're going to do is we're going to cut it in an X pattern, and we're going to fold the edges out of the way. Now that I cut it, I'll fold it in. There. Now we've got all the pieces to our portable charcoal briquette burner. We've got our coffee can, our charcoal briquettes in the basket, our removable basket handle, and we have our top. Put that on there and it's all ready to go. You can take it anywhere with you. It's portable, easy to use, effective, and simple to make. Let's get this thing to work for us. You can use a couple $1,000s in $100 bills, or you can use some newspaper. We're going to shove it in here, shove it full, and we're going to start it on fire. I use newspaper to start this fire, but pine needles and twigs work just as well. When your coals are ready, you just take your removable handle, lift your coals up, and you take it to wherever your hot pot is, and you start cooking. One of the other advantages of making this portable charcoal briquette starter is that you can actually use this as a stove. Let me show you what I mean. First thing is to remove the charcoal briquette basket and flip the can over. Put the coals back inside the can. Ouch. And what we're going to do to let air in through the bottom is put something like this piece of chicken wire in, lets enough air in the bottom. And you can put your pot or your frying pan or whatever you want to cook with right on top and go for it. Now that our hot pot is seasoned and it's ready for cooking, it's time to cook with it. And what we're going to cook today is one of our favorite dishes, pot roast. You can take any nasty type of meat and follow the instructions that I'm going to give you, and including roadkill, and make it edible and delicious. We're going to be cooking our dish today with charcoal briquettes on top of this table. I've set up a platform here. It's made out of a stepping stone, and on top of that I have a grill from our barbecue. And then we place this top from a barrel that we store our food in. That's what we're going to be doing our cooking on. Now the first thing we need to do is get our briquette started. And I've made this handy little briquette starter, charcoal briquette starter, out of some chicken wire. And I've just made 2 compartments here with a platform. This is where you put your fuel, whether it be newspaper or natural materials. I've got a little handle here, and this is where we're going to put our briquettes. Now, you have to figure out how many briquettes you're going to need for the size pot you're going to be using. You definitely don't want to start 2 little bricks, or you won't be able to cook your meal. So my rule is you take the size of your pot, this pot being a 14-inch, and you times that by 2. That's 28 briquettes we're going to need. Now I like to start a few more than the 28 just to be sure, just in case I need them. So what we're going to do, I have about 30 to 35 briquettes in here just in case I need them. Now we're just going to start this. I hope my starter works. There it goes. Just going to start this and let it get nice and hot and get those briquettes turning a little bit gray. This feels really good. It's a chilly day today, and the reason I did more briquettes than my rule allows for is because it is chilly and I will have to compensate for that coldness because I want my food in there to cook. Well, now that the coals have started, we have to wait till they get warm enough. We're going to move them over to the side here, and we're going to take this time to prepare the table for the meal. Well, the charcoal briquettes are ready now. I'm going to use all of them at the bottom of this pan because I need to get the pot hot enough so I can brown the meat. Now I'm going to situate these so they're equal distances from each other. We want to get a constant temperature on the bottom. Now we're ready to add the pot. Make sure all the coals are underneath. There. And we're going to add about 3 or 4 tablespoons of olive oil. And we want that to start getting warm. it's important to put the top on while the oil is heating up. First thing I'm going to do is crush up 8 garlic cloves. I like a lot of garlic cloves in my pot roast. First, we're going to prepare the browning mixture. I've got 3 cups of flour here, all-purpose flour. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon each of paprika and salt, 1 tablespoon of parsley, and 3 tablespoons of au jus. And you just mix that up here. Oh, we also need some pepper. About a tablespoon. I like a lot of pepper in mine. That looks about right. Let's see if the pan's hot enough to brown the meat. Okay. Let's see if this oil's hot enough to, oh, looks like it is. Put some water on it, see if it dances. Oh, that's hot enough. Okay, it's time to prepare our meat. What I'm going to do first is come on over here and put some water on the outside of this meat, so this mixture will stick to it. Now, since I'm only cooking for Ron and I tonight, I just got about 6 pounds of meat here. We like meat. And you're just going to coat these really well with the browning mixture. Make sure all sides have the mixture on it. And you set it in the hot pan to fry. Keep it in there until it's nice and brown. Like getting my hands in there, it's fun. All right. Woo! Okay, once one side is brown, you pick it up and you put it in your mixture again on that brown side. And then you put it back in the hot oil on the other side that hasn't been browned yet. And the reason we do that is not only to flavor the meat, but it's going to provide our gravy later on after we're done cooking this. Now that both sides have been turned, I'm going to put the cover back on. The oil's getting a little bit cool now. We want it to warm up again. So we'll just let this sit here and keep browning. We've already allowed the meat to brown on both sides, and we've also double dipped it in our flour mixture. Now it's time to add our garlic into the oil and now beef fat mixture, and we'll let that cook for about 5 minutes. Then we can add the rest of our ingredients. We're going to add 5 or 6 carrots cut up into 1 to 2 inch chunks, 2 medium onions, and 3 medium-sized potatoes like the ones we get here in Idaho. Okay, we're going to add about 1 inch of water from the bottom of the pan. Oops, getting more on the table. Move this over so water can get in there too. That's pretty good. Now we're going to add the potatoes, the carrots, and the onions. Now we can cover this and let that start stewing. I've already explained to you how to get the proper number of briquettes for your oven. This is a 14-inch pan. You take the diameter of the pan, which is 14, and you times it by 2. You put half of them on top and half on the bottom. In this case, I put 14 briquettes on top and 14 briquettes on bottom. Now, in ideal outside temperatures, which would be in the 70s, that would make the inside of the pot between 325 to 350 degrees. Now, if you wanted to raise that by 10 degrees, you would just add 1 briquette to the top and the bottom, total of 2 briquettes, to raise the temperature by 10 degrees. If you wanted to raise it by 20, you'd add 2 to the top and 2 to the bottom. All right, this has been cooking for about an hour. A meal of this size should take a couple hours to cook, but I want to check it just to make sure, see if things are burning, or boy, that smells so good. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Oh yeah, that meat's doing good. Just kind of stir the stuff around, see if there's anything that's got, you know, too much brown on it. Looks like everything's doing pretty good. Doesn't look like there's anything down here that's burning. It doesn't smell burnt, and that's a good sign. So it's doing pretty good. I think I'm gonna cover this back up and let it sit for another hour, or let it cook for another hour, and it should be done. All right, I think it's done. It's been cooking for 2 hours. Whoops. Jeez. Let's check this and see how tender it is. Oh yeah, that meat's nice and tender. And those potatoes look tender too. Well, I hope there's enough meat for both of us. Well, I think it is just about chow time. I cannot wait. It smells so good. Honey, get away from that camera and come down here and eat.
Oh, Mama, I'm ready.
With each one of these rat traps that I'm going to set, it's going to have a hole drilled through it, a piece of wire or string that's attached to something firmly. I don't know what's going in and out of this hole, but I know it's got 2 legs or 4 legs, and if we catch it, we're going to eat it. So I'm going to put this rat trap down here so we can find out what's going in and out of that hole. Well, this wasn't exactly what I was expecting to catch. I was hoping to catch some quail or some bird like that, but these field mice are the animals that have been infesting this hay pile behind me. At any rate, they're going to make a good meal, and let's go cook some up. You may wonder what type of wine goes best with rat. We like a nice red Pinot Noir. It complements the flavor of the rodent. While this hot pot is heating up, I just wanted to point out to you that you can use these hot pots on top of electric stoves such as this one. You can use them in your electric oven. You can use them on your propane stove. You can use briquettes. You can use regular wood. You can use anything, pretty much anything that's going to heat this thing. So they're pretty versatile, and whatever heat source you use, your meal's going to come out just delicious. All right, this looks like it's hot enough now. I'm going to add a little bit of oil, not too much. Oh boy, that's warm. Scoot that around a little bit. And we're going to add our rat. Just going to fry it up. Fry it up good. Fry up the tails and all. Tails and legs and abdomens and feet and paws and everything. It's all good. You want to brown these thoroughly. Make sure there's no pink left in these. We name all of our recipes A through Z. This happens to be the R recipe. This stands for rattlesnake, roadkill, or rodent. Since rats are rodents, it falls in the R category, so this is an R recipe. Right, it's time to add 5 fresh cloves of garlic that's been minced up and 3 tablespoons of fresh parsley. Now we're going to add 1 small white onion cut up and 2 stalks of celery diced up into small bits. We're going to let that cook for a little bit until those onions start to get a little loosened. Okay, now we're going to add about between a teaspoon and a tablespoon of salt. You can add some more later. And some pepper. I like lots of pepper on almost everything that I eat, so maybe about a teaspoon, teaspoon and a half. And stir that up a little bit more. And what I'm going to do now is let that sit. I'm going to cover it up with the top and let that sit for about 5 more minutes. Okay, this has been in here for about, I don't know, 5-7 minutes. It's already cooking down. I think it's time to add some more ingredients. We're going to add our potatoes. This is 1 small potato, cut into small pieces. This is a stew, so we want them to be in bite-sized pieces. That's good. And this is just plain old tomato sauce. I'm going to add about a half a cup of that. That's good stuff. All right, our very last ingredient is water, and you're going to add enough water just to get right, just to cover it, just barely to cover it. In this case, about a cup. That smells so good. Time to cover it and let it cook for 45 minutes on medium heat.
Oh man.
That's looking good. All right, the moment of truth is just about to happen. All right, that's good. Who wants a tail?
Not me.
No? Okay, well you'll get this. You'll get the
I guarantee
you'll
that
get
door's
the
closed.
you'll get the chest then.
Yeah, I'd rather have the top end as well. Not really looking for the bottom.
Rat stew. Honey, our guests don't look like they're too happy about this.
Damn, that looks good, kid.
Ron, you want
Save that one for me.
Ron, you want some too? You want the tail?
I like the tail.
All right, we'll do it.
You know me.
Yeah, I do know you. All right, we're gonna let this. I'm gonna turn this down here. All right, fellow comrades.
Fellow rat eaters.
All right, John.
So how do I get past that leg?
You just got to pick it up like a piece of chicken.
I said I wanted the top.
You got to pick it up like a piece of chicken.
Really? Here goes nothing. Tastes like chicken.
Don't look like chicken.
Okay, Aaron, you're on.
No, my God, I can tail here.
Come on, Aaron. You got to do it. You got to at least take a bite.
That tail came off anyhow.
All right.
Eat the tail. No way.
All right, let us see your face.
Come on, eat the tail. You guys realize we did this before they ate any of it.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna eat it.
Taste this.
Tastes like chicken? All right. Guess who's next?
Come on, Jason.
All right.
Yeah.
It's good.
We're getting a raise for this, by
Let's
the
see
way.
your face, Jason.
Coming directly from
Come on.
the
It's just a miniature chicken leg.
Yeah, there's a foot on it.
Well, don't examine it too long. Just eat it.
Oh, you think you could get a smaller bite than that, Jason? I don't think he likes it. Well, we offered our guests a second helping of our rat stew. Sadly, they declined. It's amazing how filling this stew can be. I think it's about time for us to clean up. Cleanup's really easy. As you see, I just took the stew and put it away for later. And you can see that it's still steaming in there. An easy way to clean it is to put a little bit of water in it and put the top on it. Let it steam in there for a while, and that will loosen up all the things that were sticking to it. Doesn't look like much was sticking to it, but it'll make it easier for you to clean it out. This has been steaming for a while. I think it's time for us to take it over to the sink and finish the cleaning process. Now with a well-seasoned hot pot, you're not going to have to use any type of detergent or any type of soap. So you're just going to wash it out with some water. And the oil that's left inside of it, it's okay to leave the oil left inside of it because that's what's going to give your flavor to all the other dishes that you're going to cook in it. It's nice and clean. You can use a scrubber to scrub out some of this. If you do happen to have something in here that was burnt, I think that process that I just showed you with the steaming, using the water to steam, will be enough to take that off of there. That looks good enough. Now we're just gonna dry it off, and I'll show you how to store one of these babies. If you do happen to use a detergent on it, because there's just something you just cannot get off without using detergent, be sure to put another film of oil on it before you store your hot pot. Now that the hot pot and the lid are thoroughly dry, we're going to store this by putting a piece of paper towel in here, sticking out a little bit, and put the lid on it. This keeps the lid ajar a little bit, and this soaks up any moisture that could develop inside this hot pot. Just make sure you put it in a dry place. Now that you've seen how to use the hot pot by itself, I want to show you how to use the lids to cook a meal. We're going to be cooking a breakfast here this morning, and we're going to be using two types of heat sources. The first type will be the coals, and the second type will be our propane stove over here. And we're going to be using nothing but the lids from the hot pots. Here's another use for your trivet. Obviously, we're not going to be doing this on top of the wood. We're going to be doing it on top of our piece of metal over here, but we're going to need to put coals down underneath this hot pot top, and we're going to have to elevate it somehow. And this is how we're going to elevate it. We're going to turn our trivet over, and the reason we turn it over is to accommodate for the handle here on the hot pot top. And we put this on. The coals are underneath, the trivet's upside down, the hot pot top is here, and we have our almost perfect frying pan surface with this hot pot top. Looks like our coals are just about ready to go. I'm going to take them out here, and whoo, that's a warm. Move this over a little bit. Since we're going to be doing our cooking on top of this surface, we're just going to drop all of these down there. Whoo, that's hot. And I'm going to move this out of the way. Well, I'll just leave that. That's going to burn up anyway. And we'll arrange these. Okay, I think that's good enough. Now we're going to put our trivet on. I don't want to get my hand too close to that. That is really hot. Put my trivet on upside down here and arrange these coals. This is what we're going to cook our pancakes on. There we go. We're going to let that heat up for for a few minutes, and while that's heating up, I'm going to go over here to the propane stove and start this baby up. Now it's cold out today. It's about 35 degrees out, so I do not want to shock this hot pot top. Let me get this out of the way for you. So I'm going to start this off on a really low flame because I do not want this top to crack. I think this is hot enough to start the bacon now. Oh yeah. We have our bacon cut extra thick. That's the way we like it. That smells good. All right. While that bacon's cooking, I'm going to come over here and get our pancake mix ready. Now what I got here is just Bisquick. You can use any type of recipe that you want. The only thing that I do that's different in my recipe is that whenever it calls for milk for any type of pancakes, whether it's sourdough or just your regular old pancakes, is I use beer instead of milk. So that's what I'm going to do. I got 2 cups of Bisquick here, and I'm going to, let's place it over here so you can see it better. 2 cups of Bisquick. I need to add 2 eggs to it. And it calls for a cup of milk, but like I said, I'm going to use beer. Makes it taste really good. 1 cup of beer or milk. We'll just stir that up. You don't have to make sure all the lumps are out, but just get most of them out. Now if you want to, you can add a little bit of sugar to it. This mixture right here is just a little bit too thick. I don't know why it came out a little bit too thick, but I don't want my pancakes real thick, so I'm going to add a little bit more beer to this. I want to make it a little more watery. That's a little better. I'll add a little bit more. I think we're about ready to start in on our pancakes. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Now, oh yeah, that's nice and hot. I'm going to add some butter to it. I like cooking my pancakes with butter. Add some butter. Whoops. Add some butter to that. Oh my goodness. That is looking good. All right. I'm going to add, boy, that's warm. I'm going to make a couple pancakes here. Well, I'll make about 4 or 3. See how many will fit on here. All right. I'm going to have to turn this bacon over. I think it's sizzling a lot on one side. Oh boy, that's looking good. When you're cooking with beer, I want you to notice the bubbles on the top of the pancakes. When you get bubbles all the way around on top of the pancake, this one's almost done, you know it's time to flip it over. Let me show you the bottom of this one. It's only been in here for a small amount. I think it's about ready. I'll notice too that this is a well-seasoned top. These do not stick to the well-seasoned top at all. That's why it's important to take care of your tops just as you would the bottom of your hot pot. I think that bacon is about done. It's time to take that out of there. Oh boy, that looks so good. Now I'm draining it on some paper towels here. And we're going to be cooking our eggs in this bacon fat here, but there's too much bacon fat in it, so I'm going to take some of it out because I don't want it spilling everywhere. Ron and I like artery clogging meals, so we're going to save this, the rest of this oil, for later on this evening when we cook. All right, we're ready to do some eggs now. Ooh, boy. That is warm. I'm going to turn that down just to low. That's medium. I'm going to turn that on low. And let those cook. It's something my mom taught me when I was growing up. See how that oil on top of there cooks that egg from the top and the bottom? I flip it one time real quick, and boy, that's just about done. All right, the meal's done. We got our eggs. Oh well, we'll just pull the pine needles off of this and eat it anyway. We eat rats anyway, guess it doesn't matter. Still tastes good. All right, let me wipe my hands off here. I can't believe I did that. All right, bacon. Got eggs. Gonna put our bacon out. Oh, that's crispy bacon. I love that. And last but not least, look at those. Those are just beautiful. Gosh. Boy. These look good. Smell good too. I can't wait to eat this. Well, now you know how to cook with the tops of your hot pots. I've showed you how to cook with your hot pot, the tops of your hot pot with several different heat sources. And now I've cooked this wonderful meal that I'm going to eat. So, with the pine needles and all. So, anyway, hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to. This next recipe I'm going to show you is not a primitive recipe, but it's one of the neatest recipes that I know, and I just had to put it in this video. I learned this recipe from one of our instructors, and his name happens to be Nate. So we call these Trapper Nate donuts. And believe it or not, we're going to make them with these biscuits right here. What you need is a can of biscuits that you can get anywhere. It doesn't need to be a certain type of brand. It can be any brand. Biscuits. Excuse me. You need biscuits. You need oil. You need powdered sugar and a hot pot or something to cook it in. So, and I'll show you how to do the rest. Okay, we're just going to open this up and we're going to prepare these biscuits for making them into donuts. Oh, these cans are awkward. Okay. Now you separate all of them into their individual biscuitness. And then you just make a hole in the middle of them because we want to make donuts. And donuts have holes in the middle of them. So that's what we're going to do. This is all you really have to do to prepare these for the oil. Okay, those look like they're ready. Let's see if the oil's ready. Oh yeah, I think that's ready. Just add your biscuits in here to the oil. They're going to cook pretty quickly, so you got to move quick when this happens. I only used about a cup of oil here. You can use less oil. I just used a lot because I knew I had a lot of donuts to do all at the same time. And you can see they're already turning brown. You just want them to turn brown, then you turn them over. That's how quickly they cook. Cooking really quick. They're done just that quick. We're going to take these and put these back to drain on top of some paper towels. And then we'll go on to our next step. Now it's time to put these donuts into our powdered sugar. And I've placed our powdered sugar here into a Ziploc baggie, so I can just add a couple at a time. We'll add 3. And then shake them up. Yeah, they've cooled enough now. And these are your finished donuts. I got a little friend back here who wants to try one out. So anyway, that's your finished donut. They are just delicious. I have to have one. That is so good. You have to try this. This is the best recipe. Thank you, Nate. Honey, you gotta come over here and eat some of these before I eat all of them. I'm serious. Well, that's about it for Cave Cooking 2. You've seen the 3 types of solar cookers, the box cooker, the panel cooker, and the parabolic cooker. I do want to warn you again, please don't put your hand inside, especially the parabolic cooker, without some kind of protection on it because it will hurt you. And don't look directly into any of your solar cookers because it can give you eye damage. You've also seen the Dutch oven cooking techniques. You've seen how to season your pot, how to cook it with different heat sources, and how to store your pot. I want to remind you again, please do not use charcoal briquettes to cook with inside your house, inside an enclosed place. They do kick off carbon monoxide and they can kill you. I'd also like to point out that even though we didn't show cooking with a Dutch oven on top of a campfire, I want you to know that there's a difference between hardwoods and softwoods. Hardwoods being like oak, they burn a lot faster, they burn a lot hotter than the softwoods like pine. Remember too to use your imagination when you're cooking with the solar or the Dutch oven. I didn't show you this in the video, but if you have a solar oven like a box oven that's big enough and you have a Dutch oven that's small enough that'll cook inside of it, you can use your Dutch oven inside your solar cooker. Well, I guess that's about it. We'll see you next spring in Cave Cooking 3. Come on, Neech. Come on, baby. Good girl. Come on, doggies. Come on. Come on, sweetie pie. Good girl. Come on, babies, come on. Come on, cutie pie. Come on, come on, come here. Come on, good girl. Come on, doggies.